going the wrong. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. When death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our home so lonely and drear. Then do we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. When we see Jesus coming in glory, when he comes from his home in the sky, then we shall meet him in that bright mansion. We'll understand it all by and by. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. Lead me gently home, Father, lead me gently home. When life's toils are ended and parting days have come, sin no more shall tempt me, ne'er from thee I'll roam. If thou only lead me, Father, lead me gently home. Lead me gently home. Lead me gently home. Lead me gently, lest I fall upon the wayside. Lead me gently, gently home. Lead me gently home, Father. Lead me gently home. In life's darkest hours, Father, when life's troubles come, keep my feet from wandering, lest from thee I roam, lest I fall upon the wayside. Lead me gently home. Lead me gently. Lead me gently home. Lead me gently, lest I fall upon the wayside. Lead me gently, gently home. Lead me gently home, Father. Lead me gently home. In temptations our Father, when sore trials come, be thou near to keep me.
All right. Turn over to Ruth chapter 3. Ruth chapter 3. We finished, well, we kind of looked at the first 6, 7, 8 verses here of Ruth 3. Don't want to go back and rehash all of that, but we do need to remember that this is kind of all right, now this is the plan to find the kinsman redeemer, to find the husband for Ruth. Naomi and Ruth, and she's been sent to work in the field, and it just so happened it was the field of Boaz, who is a relative, albeit not, we're going to see not the closest relative, but one that shows compassion and kindness, and that's a theme. God's kindness, His hesed, His loving kindness has not failed. Even sometimes when Naomi struggled to see that, she's starting to see it. Remember when she comes back in the field and she's got all that harvest that Boaz has sent home with her. And Naomi says, blessed. And she don't even know that's a kinsman redeemer yet, a relative. And so, she is, we see this plan unfolding now, that it's time during the harvest festival. We've mentioned that, social elements to this. That's kind of like folks, even today, weddings and special occasions, and you know those from the past years where community gatherings, that's kind of where people get married, people find love, and that's going to kind of be similar here with this. And Naomi knows all of that. She's experienced. She knows what to do. Remember? And she has this plan, and for Western minds, all of this is, marrying your dead brother's wife and all of this is so bizarre to us, but we've talked about that. Remember, God is preserving family, right? And who are we to scoff at that in a culture that just disregards family? God's all about what? Saving family. And so we see that with this law of the kinsman redeemer. And so Naomi says to Ruth, it's time to find a home, a husband, to provide for you. And you're going to go during this time, and they'll be winnowing the barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on some perfume, get dressed in your best clothes. Go down to the threshing floor. Don't let him know you're there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he's lying. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. So, again, the whole thing is bizarre. And there are some who, and again, I'm not going to disregard that there's no, of a sexual, romantic. I'm not going to take any of that, completely that element out. We are human relationships, men and women. That, of course, is a sexual aspect to that, as far as when you're talking about love and marriage. And so I don't deny that, but there's nothing here that is erotic or sexual, like some commentators have tried to imply, a few. And the Bible, when the Bible wants to say something about, it doesn't hold back, does it? It's trying to be, what? No, come on. The Old Testament, you just start reading it, it'll make you squirm. Some of the stuff that's recorded in there. And so, she's a hero, and they don't want to paint the heroes of the Bible are you kidding me? Right? No. And so, this is this idea of protection. This is a cultural way to say, I want to come under your care, your provision. Remember, it's the same language that Boaz, we talked about that in chapter 2 and verse 12. Remember, as he talks about how she's shown kindness to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and then what has God done for her? There in verse 12 of Ruth 2. Repay you, richly reward you by the Lord. May the God of Israel, under whose... Hello? There you go. You're with me, aren't you? Aren't you looking? You got to look at the text, not me there. Look at that text. I want you to connect that. This is important. under whose wing you've come for refuge. What is Naomi telling Ruth to go do? Go lay at his feet and what? He'll tell you what to do. This covering, this protection. Do what? He'll help her out. And that's exactly when Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, lay down in the middle of the night. Something startled the man. He turned. There was a woman lying there. Look at verse 9. Spread the cover of your garment over me. Wow, what about that? We just saw Ruth 2, verse 12. Under whose wing, protection. Spread your garment over me so that you can be what? Since you are a kinsman redeemer. I want, it's an invitation for marriage, if you will. It's an invitation that she wants that. It's an invitation for him to do what he knows. He knows he's a relative. This isn't a shock to him. And so that's what all of this is. We talked about that. And that's what's going on here. As odd and bizarre as it might be to us, that's what happens. Boaz is finished drinking in good spirits, went down, lied down on the grain pile, and she approached quietly again, uncovered his feet, laid down. Something startled him. Yeah, something was startling you. Someone's down there at your feet. And he turned, and there was this woman lying. Who are you? He doesn't know. I'm Ruth, of course. And then we read verse 9. Spread your corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer of our family. And so, let's see here. That does not look like this week's slides. I wonder if that's last week's. I may have sent the wrong one. Is that what you had? All right. Well, we'll just go back to the title. I may have sent you week 8 instead of week 9. If you just go back to the Ruth title. There you go. Okay. I fell back instead of spring forward. There you go, Kathy. Way to go. Way to go. All right. So here we've got this whole scenario. Again, Ruth's request there in verse 12 is what? Protection. Marriage. To be a kinsman redeemer. I'm available. I'm single. I want to marry you. I want to come under your provision, your protection. Again, the same language Boaz used to describe the Lord. She's saying, I want you to do for me what the Lord has done. And that's what we see here in this regard. What are some things that Boaz acknowledges here? Look here at verses, let's go ahead and read it now. Let's go 10 through 13. Who's got that? I'm sorry, not 10. 10 through 13. Let's do that of Ruth 3. Who's got that for us? Who'd like to read that? Okay, Jeff Poe. Okay, let's think about a couple of questions here about two about Boaz, then one about Ruth here. Let's first start with the first one about Boaz. What does Boaz acknowledge here in these verses, in this conversation here? What are some things he acknowledged about this situation, Ruth, and everything? What are some things that stand out to you? He's recognizing her intent. Okay, what else? Some things there that Boaz recognizes? Her noble character. We'll come back to that here. What else? Some things here he says about that
he's not as young and good looking as some of the other men.
Okay, yeah. He says that I know that you could what? You could run after some younger. Apparently, Ruth's a looker. She's not bad to look at. So that's yeah. He recognizes that. What else does he embrace about what he's going to have to do? And he says what? He's going to embrace it. He's going to take the responsibility of doing this. What else does he say about her as far as in the community? Remember, she's a what? She's not an Israelite. She's a Moabite. But she's developed what? A good reputation, a good name. And again, as Jeff mentioned, she could go after younger. He acknowledges that there. That you have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. He's saying there, you've got options, right? You've got options. But what matters to Ruth is what she's being asked by her mother-in-law, right? She's being faithful. She's continuing to show kindness. She's acknowledging the role of God in all of this, in essence, and what she's looking for. Both are high-quality character people. And this is what... Now look, I know I'm getting into that stage of life where this is becoming more important to me with my kids, who they're going to marry. So I know I'm totally biased on this, and my daughters especially would say, oh, if Dad had his way, he'd pick out the, because I'm always like, hey, see a good guy, look for them good guys now, look for them good church-going guys. Don't just be looking for those what? Big, strong, handsome, fancy, flashy, smooth talk. What are we most concerned about as parents with our children? Who's gonna help them get to heaven? And I'd rather them marry someone who maybe not have it all beautiful, put together in every way, but will help them what? Get to heaven. And there is no one, let me just say this, there is no one who helps you get to heaven more or potentially can harm you than your spouse. I believe that, and I got 24 years of ministry to look at it. There is, hands down, the biggest person that has the influence is your spouse. I've seen it a million gazillion times. One spouse can influence the other. Both good, right? Haven't you seen that in the church? Some of you men especially are sitting here, right? 1 or 2, 3 of you, right? Are here because what? Your spouse. Your spouse was the key. We mentioned that with my grandpa, right, Mom? He missed a few decades, as he says, right? But she didn't. She didn't. And it was a big influence. And so also the negative can be there. So what I'm saying is look how society looks at things on the surface level. There's a whole lot more things that are more important than what? Good looks, wealth, money, all those things. Now, of course, my daughters are quick to point out, well, Dad, can't we get both? Can we have both? Yeah, you can have both. Get both. But what's most important, right, in life is let's hear the character, the heart. And you see that with these two individuals. It's a great book to study in that regard. And again, look at Boaz again, especially there in verse 12. Now look what he says here. Although it is true I am a kinsman redeemer, there is another. Whoa, buddy. Let's not give up that information. What are you saying? They say when you go to court and you're dealing with legal stuff, they often say, don't answer any more than what? Than you have to, what they ask you. Don't give them any more information that you know, right? Hey, Boaz, hey, don't be saying all what you know.
So it shows that he's following tradition. He knows the laws of the land.
And he knows that there's actually what? Someone closer.
closer. And from what I have found out, well, through movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that, this is in your Arab era to where traditions have to be followed for the laws of the land to be recognized.
Sure. Yeah, and we're talking here about God's laws, right? So, I mean, it is, I mean, and Jeff just mentioned, he's not getting any younger. She's a young, attractive, he just acknowledged she can get plenty other men. She can get younger, rich, he's missing out by opening his mouth. He may just be missing out on what? And see, that's where our integrity, situational ethics, right? They run up against our integrity. Well, in this situation, it's okay to what? You just fill in the blank. Just this, it's okay, right? At the office, at the company, hey, it's all right. Everybody kind of over inventories and kind of will take some stuff when they leave the jobs. Hey, it's okay. Just kind of round that number up a little bit and on the ledger sheet and just turn in that. I mean, you just name it, right? And integrity, what is integrity at its core? What do you think about the definition and what it is and what comes to...
Doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
Doing the right thing when no one can see that you're doing the right thing. I mean, obvious in big moments when everybody is watching, of course, but when you're doing the counting on the material and, oops, we'll just count a little more there. I'll just slide a few more and, right? I mean, that
At that same deal of doing the right thing when nobody's looking, but you know yourself that someone upstairs
yeah,
is always looking.
yeah. And the small, where do we lose our integrity, our character? Isn't it often in the small things? We just slowly what? Erode our what? Our good character, our good integrity. I mean, big people don't go out all of a sudden and just murder somebody, do they? Or just steal a gazillion dollars. What have they often, it started what? Just a little small. Hey, man, I got away with a few $100 there. I wonder if I can get a few hundred more, right? I mean, that's how it starts, right? It's sin is always progressive in that sense. What's that mean? It grows, it expands, it gets worse. And Satan knows that. And that's why he'll start with what? Oh, this is just one little what? Oh, technicality. There's somebody, Boaz, he could be saying this to Boaz. Just be quiet. It's just a little technicality. There's someone. But he says, no, there is someone. You say, Robert, you're kind of beating on that. I'm beating on it. Because I think integrity is, it's what in our society? I mean, what's happening to it? It's a lost. And so here we see a great example of that in this regard. Proverbs speaks about that in so many ways. Puts a high premium on that in that regard. And there's so many examples of that. I think about it's not the same, but it's similar in some ways. I think about Joseph with Mary. Remember what it says? He wanted to quietly put her away. That was under the law. He had that was every right when a man's engaged, and it was basically you were married in that sense legally, and she's turned up pregnant, and he's not. He has every right, but he wants to do that in a way that doesn't destroy her. And so he's a man of integrity in his dealings with someone and how you deal with them. He's discreet. Isn't discreet another way of showing your integrity? You're not just what? Blah, blah, just throwing it out there, and you're handling it in an appropriate way. And I think that's important. And so I thought of that example of Joseph. Kind of makes me think about the Boaz and Ruth story a little bit in some ways, even though it's a different situation. And so I think that's what we need to remember. I'm preaching to my kids right now. You preach to your kids and grandkids. What matters most is a man or a woman who what? Has integrity and character and loves God. That is what is honesty matters, fidelity matters. These are the things to build a home and a life on. And don't think, well, I'll convert her, I'll get her straightened out I'll get him straightened out. And by the way, for every one of my grandpa's stories, let me tell you another little thing in the church. For every one Bob Howard's, there's 7 that never step in the church building. Isn't that right? You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you what I'm saying. I've done a lot of funerals for faithful women. Husband sitting right there, he never went to church with her hardly. So it happens. The ones that are converted, praise God. But Roy and others sitting out here, but for every Roy or Bob Howard, there's 7 or 6 that never come back to the church. Believe me, that's a fact. And so don't get to thinking, well, they'll grow into it and this, that, and the other. And we all grow. I'm not saying we don't grow and mature. Don't misunderstand. But that's important that we're going in that direction. And so anyway, and I won't apologize to that, who want my kids to marry. And I'll love whoever they bring home, even if he's a Yahoo or a girl for Camden that I don't necessarily approve of. I'll love them just like they're my own kid at that point. But I will pray that their heart will be converted and they'll change and they'll become what God would have them to be. But I pray they don't have to do that and that they'll marry someone who will already be helping them in that direction. So, and I know it's not a guarantee. Robert, don't give me the Robert. I married someone who, I know it's not a guarantee. I know that. But I got 25 years of ministry on my side. I can show you faithful Christian people stay together, and more often in the church than the other way. Okay, well, I beat on that a little bit. You say, Robert, you beat on that. Yeah, I did. I really want you to press that on your kids and grandkids as much. It's real important. It is real important. Okay, let's get here quickly now. Let's look at verses 14 through 18. Who wants to read that for us here? 14 through 18. Okay, Ron.
So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. He also said, bring me the shawl you were wearing and hold it out. And she did so. He poured it into 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then he went back to town. When Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until this matter is settled today.
Okay, by the way here, I just want to come back to this thing about that there was some sexual encounter. The context always determines. Look at what Boaz is concerned about. Is he a man of propriety? Is he a man that wants things to be done in an appropriate way and viewed in what's he tell her here? Hey, I want things to be. I don't want your reputation. I don't want someone to run with this in a way. I mean, they're not hiding anything as far as they did something and now they're trying to. No, his intentions are good. Her intentions are good. I just want you to know context always determines. And it's usually in the context you can find it. But so she laid there at his feet till the morning before anyone could recognize it. And again said, don't want anyone knowing this. And bring the shawl and hold it out. And when she did, he poured these 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her. And then he went back to town. And why does he give a gift to Naomi? Okay, special appreciation. What else? I think it's something a little more.
He knows these are 2 women in need.
Okay.
A lot of need, and no one to provide for them.
Okay.
I didn't hear what she said, but
You're going to provide. Yeah. Go ahead, Roy.
I'm concerned for her well-being.
Yeah, I think it's all of that. I think especially what Ivana is saying is at the core. He's what, Ivana?
It's a promise of what his intentions are.
Yeah. It's a dowry. It's a beginning of a, I mean, that's what they did in ancient times is what? I'm going to give someone in marriage, and here you go. Here's a dowry. Here's a financial pledge that I'm making. And I think he's showing that already here, that I intend to do this. And so she's going to do that. He's going to do that here in this gift. And I'm going to follow through with what I said. And what about Naomi's response? Boy, aren't you now? Boy, she struggled out of the gate. What did we say after chapter 1? And no, don't call me Mara, bitter. And she struggled. But boy, now she's coming around, isn't she? She has got a plan. She sends Ruth down here, do this, do that. Now, I mean, you think Ruth was excited when she came back? Do you think Ruth, being younger, might have been tempted to like, hey, let's make it happen now. Everything is set up to, let's go. And what does she exercise? What does she demonstrate here? Caution. What do we say? What do we call that? Patience. We call that wisdom. Patience, wisdom.
Or the way my grandmother would say it, don't count your chickens.
Well, don't count your chickens. And also, here's the fact. It's out of their hands now, right? Now, what they've planned and they've acted on that plan, and the plan, at least from their perspective, from their what? They've done their part. What does Naomi now know? Well, Boaz needs to do his, and I think you say, Robert, well, it doesn't say it in the text, but I'm going to tell you, I think she's waiting and trusting on God now. I think she's seeing, we're going to let the Lord work this out. This thing I'm not going to try to force this. I'm not going to try to rush this. Isn't that a challenge? When to discern, when to act, and when to wait. Now, what are we tempted often more to do? What's hard to do? Hard to wait. We want to what? Jump right in. Or even when we've planned and we've done something, now we want to keep kind of trying to what? Make it happen, kind of force it to happen. Like, let me just make sure this happens. Let me call them 10 times that day and make sure they understand and send them 100 emails. We try to, what do? We try to kind of facilitate it. We try to manipulate it, micromanage it, right? Okay, no looking around at anybody in here. No nudging or anybody. But what do we have to do? We have to, when we've done what we can do, it's time to what? Trust God. Does all the heroes in the Bible, if you will, the great men and women of faith, did all of them have elements where they had to act, they had to do, and then they had to what? They had to trust, and often had to wait. Who do you think about examples? Anything come to mind, different ones? Abraham. Yeah, Abraham. I want to give you a son, make you a great nation. 25 years later, it happens. Someone, Noah. What? Moses? Now, he wanted to do it at 40, right? And God said, no, you go out and work for your father-in-law for 40 years, and then we'll see how if you're ready. Do what? Maturing? Anybody else come to mind, or any? Jonah? Yeah. Yeah, David. I mean, you're going to become a king. Great. It's 14 years later before he becomes king over all of Israel. And a bunch of those years he's running, right, from the current king. And he had an opportunity to what? We've mentioned that, I think. To kill. He had the opportunity to take it. And he said, no, what? God wanted me to be king. This is God's anointed. I'm not doing anything until God's what? God's ready for me to be king. How hard is that? That's hard. Now, it doesn't mean we just do nothing, right? Well, we just sit here and we'll just wait for God. No, what have we said? Ruth and Naomi. Naomi had a what? She had a plan. It was thought out. It was executed. But now it's time to what? It's time to wait and trust in the Lord. Well, what if he doesn't do it tomorrow? What if he doesn't do it next? Keep waiting. Has she had to been wait? What have we said? How many years has it been? We know it's been a while. At least 10. She's had to do some waiting, hasn't she? If anybody was anxious, actually, I think more than Ruth, it would actually be Naomi, wouldn't you think? I mean, she's got a lot on the line to lose, right? She's older. She doesn't have any sons. She doesn't have any grandsons. I mean, if anyone actually was going to force this, you'd think she would be what? But she's learned over what? At least 10 years. The hard way, because again, early on, chapter 1, her attitude wasn't so good, was it? But now she's what? Let's wait. And I think my implication, let's wait for God here. Let's not rush this. Couple of scriptures here. Let's look at Isaiah 41. You know this verse. Isaiah 41. Let's turn over there. It's just a good one to read anytime we can. So let's read it. Verse 28, you know it. Have you not heard? The Lord, the everlasting, the creator of the ends of the earth, He will not grow tired or weary. His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power to the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary. Young men stumble and fall. But those who what? Who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They'll soar like wings like eagles. They'll run and not grow weary. They'll walk and not be faint. Now, implied in this, though, is you're going to get to some points where you feel like you're about to what? I mean, the whole implication is that people get what? Weary. What's that mean? You're going to be living life at times, and you're going to feel like you can't take another what? Another step. I can't do this, Lord. I'm done. I can't. And so, but we got to trust God. Trust God. He will strengthen us. Those who put their hope in Him. And that's that trust. That's the element of, it's going to be weight on the Lord. And then I think about James 5. Turn over James 5. Get a little New Testament in our Ruth study. James 5. And let's do verses 7 and following. Be patient, then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another. See, what do we do when we have a tendency, we're getting frustrated, we're getting impatient, we turn on each other, and or you'll be judged. The judge is standing at the door. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience, now this is an interesting example. In the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. And as you know, we count as blessed those who persevered, for you have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. You know, the old King James talks about the patience of Job, but actually Job was not very patient. The word there actually is perseverance. Job became often impatient, didn't he? Because what did he start questioning? God, hey, where are you, God? What's going on? Don't you see me? What's happening? Are you going to do something? And God had to come finally and ask him questions and get his attitude to change. But he persevered, which implies when you have to persevere something, what's that imply? Is it easy? There's going to be days you what? You despair. You want to give up. I can't do this, Roy. Yes. He didn't give up on God. We can question sometimes. We can doubt. We can struggle. Remember the Lord, help my unbelief, I believe. We can have some unbelief. And I think that's what you see here with this story of Naomi and Ruth is there is a time to act. There is a time to plan and all of that. But there's also a time to wait and trust on the Lord. And that scares us. Naomi has a powerful plan, and they've acted upon it. And now there's nothing more she can do except trust in God. and it's in Boaz's hands. And that, boy, isn't that hard when you got to put it in someone else's hands too? Like, that's tough.
I think by nature we want to do it ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
Depend on someone else.
Yeah,
That's where a lot of us turn into the Indian givers.
yeah, yeah.
We give it up to God.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to take
We want to take
it
it back. We absolutely do. Yeah. And so I would encourage us, when we can't, remember God can. It's His time. And so as we have opportunities to serve and work and do good, let's do that. And then let's trust that God, in due season, if we plant, God says He'll give the what? He'll give the increase. He'll give it. We got to water, we cultivate, but it's God in His own time who what? Gives the increase. And that's what we got to learn. And I think we see that in this story. All right, well, we will, got a couple weeks, we'll finish up chapter 2, probably 2 weeks, and then have a kind of a, I want to come back to the providence of God a little bit as a theme. So, all right. Thanks for being here.
He bids me sing.